Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Starry Skies and Sweet Smiles, or alternatively, Edgelords are tamed by the power of love and oblivious dorks in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 31. You're eating the spicy dango? Hilda asked. A few months of eating at the same table as Dimitri taught her that he preferred cheesy dishes and sweets, so she was curious about the sudden change. Dimitri paused, trying to find an explanation that didn't involve telling her and the entire table that he hadn't been able to taste anything since a major traumatic experience until recently, and now he was extremely curious about the flavor of all the food on the menu he had forsaken in favor of foods with familiar textures. He eventually settled on, I thought it would be a waste to not try the foods from different cultures available here. Oh, that makes sense, Hilda said. Does it taste any good? I can feel my mouth burning, Dimitri answered, because he didn't actually know if he liked the sensation yet. Hilda laughed. Yeah, that's what spicy food does, Hilda said. Dimitri had to point his gaze away from her smile, an action Hilda interpreted as a sign of embarrassment. Embarrassment because he couldn't handle spicy food, of course. She managed to connect all the dots and still get the wrong picture. With a smile, she offered, hey, if you want to try something less spicy, you could have some of my fish sauté. Huh? Really? Dimitri asked. Isn't that your favorite meal? Yeah, but food's better if you share it with a friend, right? Hilda's words were a pointed reminder to the two of them that their relationship was friendly and platonic. Clearly. And then Hilda fucked up, because she jokingly added, I'll even feed it to you if you want me to. Alright. The two of them instantly froze, trying to process both what they had said and what the other had said. The two of them were blushing when Dimitri broke the silence. That was a joke, Dimitri said hurriedly. I've been attempting to practice levity recently. I heard that it was a good way to provide a more comfortable atmosphere. Oh, so that was it. Hilda exclaimed, forcing a flustered smile on her face. Geez, I almost couldn't tell. I apologize, I'll strive to provide a more enjoyable joke at the soonest opportunity. Neither of them noticed how Ingrid stabbed her fork through her plate in despair, or how Ash held his face in his hands sorrowfully, or how Claude had introduced his face to the table, or how Sylvain was staring in shock, or how suddenly exasperated Felix was, or how even Marianne and Bernadetta were staring. The only person who didn't react to this scene much was Professor Byleth. They just kept eating their sweet bun, even though the two they were eating with, Mercedes and Annette, were both distracted. This feat was even more impressive because Byleth was the only person capable of perceiving the one reacting the most to the scene. You fools! Suthies screamed, floating above Dimitri and Hilda's heads furiously. Don't you mortals have a single iota of sense? Professor Byleth ignored everything as Suthies floated over to the other side, eavesdropping on the plan Claude was sharing with Ingrid, Ash, and now Sylvain. Suthies shook her head sadly. No, it's not that all mortals lack sense, for these ones seem perfectly aware of what is to come, it's simply these two in particular. And then Suthies got an idea. Professor Byleth let out a quiet sigh as Suthies suddenly started to give them orders. To be perfectly frank, Professor Byleth kind of expected Suthies' plan to involve possessing one of the pair and asking the other half out. They were actually kind of surprised when step one of the plan was just inviting Dimitri to tea. Suthies directed their hand towards a certain type of tea. They didn't bother questioning the sudden change in tea, because that would require questioning how she knew everyone's favorite tea and meals in the first place. Crescent moon tea? Dimitri asked, recognizing the scent. Byleth stared at Dimitri flatly, which was their expression of surprise. Ah, forgive me. I was just recalling some pleasant memories, Dimitri said, picking up his teacup. Byleth's immediate reply was to ask if Dimitri was in love. Dimitri almost died from choking on his tea. That, I. Keep the foolish mortal distracted. Suthies ordered, before going off to goddess knows where. Byleth kind of mentally shrugged and went with it. They offered Dimitri a napkin, which he took gratefully. When he took the napkin from their hand, though, he saw the object underneath. The note telling him to just confess already. This sent Dimitri into another coughing fit. Byleth waited until Dmitri was breathing properly again and had recovered at most a fifth of his dignity before telling him that Hilda recently started liking Crescent Moon tea too. Possibly for the same reasons, they hinted. They almost felt bad for Dmitri, because the blonde was very embarrassed and blushing very hard. And then they noticed something he didn't. Go on, just a bit further, please. Yes, that's it. You're doing well. They instantly knew exactly what was going to happen, but did nothing to stop it. Suthies was guiding a goose straight to Dmitri, who was too flustered and embarrassed to notice. As the goose honked and stole Dmitri's bracelet, Byleth briefly wondered why Suthies was nicer to a bird than them. Go, 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 my feathery fiend. Keep running. Get back here, you. Heads turned at the sight and sound of the leader of the Blue Lions, heir to the kingdom, chasing after a goose. Huh, Claude said, looking away from his game of chess with Edelgard. That's happening. It sure is, Edelgard replied, completely stunned by the baffling event. Hilda heard some strange sounds as she left the greenhouse. She went to investigate the sound, kneeling by the edge of the pond to see Dmitri, wading through the water, yelling at a goose. Dmitri? Hilda asked, making Dmitri freeze. Dmitri, what are you doing? Dmitri turned back towards her, a bit bashful as he said, a bird has stolen something important to me. Hilda squinted at the goose floating on the water's surface. It was holding the bracelet she made for Dmitri in its beak. Dmitri, I could have just made you another one, Hilda said simply. It's fine. It's not like I'll hold it against you or anything. She smiled down at him, holding out her hand to reach him. Come on, you'll get sick again if you don't get changed soon. Dmitri went to reach for her hand. As Dida came running, and without hesitation, dove into the pond to retrieve Dmitri's bracelet for him. His entry sent waves through the water, splashing both Hilda and Dmitri. Which was a terrible, terrible thing. Both Didu and Dmitri had managed to avoid getting sick, but the next day, Hilda was bedridden with a fever. Manuela, previously informed of what had happened by Byleth, sent Dmitri to care for her. While suppressing winks and little giggles, because Goddess knew that most of the school had been waiting for this. Dmitri wanted to protest because it was a terrible idea for many reasons, but was held silent because Hilda had cared for him when he was sick. He was bound by his honor, and the fact that he cared a lot about her, to make sure she was okay. So, despite all his protests to being in her room alone, he went. Mercedes helped him grab supplies to care for a sick person. His classmates promised to grab him the classwork. Once classes ended, her classmates in the Golden Deer would visit to hand her the work, plus all the rest of Hilda's friends. But first, Dmitri had to care for Hilda. Obviously, he blamed himself for her getting sick. But, when he tried to apologize, Hilda just said it was fine. It wasn't his fault. Dmitri would have tried to argue, but then Hilda pouted while glaring at him and told him, "Hey, I'm not blaming you. So you shouldn't blame yourself, either." Now, this move was already pretty effective on Dmitri by sheer virtue of Hilda being stubborn enough to make Dmitri back off. But, this time, Hilda had her hair down, plus she was wearing her nightgown. There was absolutely no way he could keep going with his self-depreciation in the face of such cuteness. So instead, Dmitri went about trying to help her out. Dmitri pulled her desk chair up to her bedside. He went to check her temperature with his hand, before realizing that his gloves would obviously interfere with the process. Dmitri took off his gloves quickly. Hilda was staring, he noticed, as she pulled her blanket higher over her body. "Is something wrong?" Dmitri asked. Hilda hesitated. Actually, she didn't even notice how often he wore gloves until he was removing them. It was only the second time she had seen him without gloves, like how it was the second time he was seeing her in her nightgown. Thinking of it like that made it feel special. Intimate, even. Deciding not to ever tell him that, Hilda answered with, "No, nothing." Dmitri seemed concerned as he pressed the back of his hand to her forehead. Hilda gulped, before simply saying, "Your hand's cold." "I apologize," Dmitri replied, pulling his hand away. He grabbed a damp cloth for her, thanking Mercedes for her wisdom. Dmitri brushed Hilda's bangs aside, slowly, tenderly. Both of them tried not to focus on the feeling of his fingers brushing against her skin. Almost too quickly, the moment came to an end, with his hand being replaced by a simple cloth. "Would you like anything else?" Dmitri asked. "I can grab some tea or a meal for you." Hilda thought it over. She wasn't really hungry, and she didn't really want any tea. "Can you stay here?" Hilda found herself asking quietly. "Pardon?" No, forget it," Hilda said, pulling her blanket all the way up to cover her face. "I'll just go to sleep." "Thanks a lot." "No, wait, I just didn't hear you," Dmitri exclaimed quickly. "If there's anything I can do, please tell me." "But it's really small and stupid," Hilda said. "It's fine. I don't mind," Dmitri told her. "I'll listen to any request you want to make." Hilda peeked out over the top of her blanket, only the top of her head and her eyes visible as she looked towards Dmitri. Then she trailed off. Dmitri waited for her to keep going. "Can you hold my hand?" Hilda asked, poking one of her hands out from the blanket. Alright. "Yeah, I knew you wouldn't, just forget it, okay? I just..." Hilda froze, because Dmitri was already holding her hand. "Am I doing this correctly?" Dmitri asked in concern. "Yeah, you are," Hilda answered, feeling her face warm. Dmitri wasn't even going to question why she asked for it, but she explained anyways. It was more for her own ears than his, really. "When I was younger, my brother used to hold my hand until I fell asleep when I got sick," she said. "When I got older, though, he got more and more busy. I didn't want to make him work harder than he already was, so I stopped telling him whenever I got sick." She smiled, even though her head was spinning. "Your hand, it feels nice," Hilda said simply. "I'm glad I could comfort you." "MHM. Thank you, Dmitri. For everything." She drifted off into sleep after that, a smile on her face. "I should be the one thanking you," Dmitri said quietly, so as to not disturb her. "Rest well. I hope you have pleasant dreams." Chapter 32. Manuela was trying to keep Hilda and Dmitri from wrecking the training hall again by making them sing in the chapel with her. This provided Claude, Ash, and Ingrid with the perfect chance to scheme in the courtyard, because scheming was just how they hung out. "Listen, I'm just saying, if we can trick Hilda into thinking that kissing someone on the cheek is a greeting in Fairgus," Claude said. "She's not tall enough," Ingrid countered immediately. "How are we going to convince her when she's known us all for 8 months and never saw anyone do that before?" Ash asked. "Plus, I don't really want to kiss Ash on the cheek," Ingrid said, before adding, "No offense, Ash." "No worries," Ash replied, before adding, "Plus, wouldn't His Highness kind of die if Hilda kissed him anywhere?" Claude paused. "Then, if I can convince him that it's a tradition in the Alliance." "Utterly impossible," Ingrid answered. "Do you really think His Highness would be able to do that? And live?" "Wow," Ash said, because wasn't this Dimitri's childhood friend? "Well, if we don't have any other options, we can always go for Plan M," Claude stated. "No, we can't," Ingrid retorted. "We are not even considering Plan M ever." "Is it really that bad?" Ash asked. "Yes, Ash." "No, it was a great idea." "Ingrid's just allergic to great ideas," Claude said. "No, Claude. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea in every possible way." "What's this about terrible ideas?" Leonie asked, pausing in her walk with Marianne. Ash quickly explained the situation, causing the other two girls to start pondering. "I know training together helps people get closer," Leonie said, before backtracking. "No, wait, they already do that all the time. All they manage to do is break stuff." "Maybe, horseback riding," Marianne suggested. "Or caring for horses, together." Marianne and Ingrid exchanged a glance. Claude had to repress a smirk at the sight, since, well, that's a great idea, but Hilda can't ride a horse, he said solemnly. Oh, sorry. "No, thank you too for your contribution." Ingrid exclaimed quickly. If you ever want someone to ride with, well, you know where to find me. Marianne nodded, before she and Leonie made their exit. Claude actually smirked because of that exchange. Ash had to physically prevent Ingrid from forcibly wiping that smile off of Claude's face. Okay, so we're back at square 2.1, Claude said, because they had probably gotten somewhere. Maybe. What sort of things would finally cause a relationship? Ash wondered. Aren't you two the romance novel experts? Claude asked. Knightly Tale fans, Ingrid corrected. Usually in those novels, the main couple confesses on a blood-soaked battlefield, injured and fighting to their last breath, Ash stated. Yeah, that's not going to work, Claude said. Anything else? Ash raised his hand. Claude turned to him, causing Ash to awkwardly say, Oh, no, I don't have an idea. I'm just waving to Annette and Lysithea and Cyril. Claude turned around, seeing the baby Shorta squad hanging out. I wonder if they would have any ideas. Ingrid said. What? No, they're babies. Ingrid already left to ask them. Claude and Ash just fucking followed her, because Ingrid was unstoppable. The answers they got were. Oh, baking together. Annette exclaimed. And eating together, studying together. There's so much they can do. They already do that, though, Lysithea pointed out, making Annette deflate. Why's this important, anyways? Cyril asked. It's fun, Claude answered. Cyril's reply was a flat stare and do you guys really have enough time to waste like this? Hey, but it's just being helpful, right? Annette asked. You know, like you want to help Lady Rhea. Cyril paused, thinking it over very carefully. No, it's really not, Cyril answered. Yes, you really should focus on your duties, Lysithea said with a proud smile. I don't read much in the way of romantic literature, but I do have a simple plan that you could use. Lysithea, our little savior. Claude exclaimed, ruffling Lysithea's hair. It's only so you stop wasting time on this and get back to studying. Lysithea huffed. Her plan went as follows. 1. Hilda would be in the library. 2. The book she wanted was on the highest shelf. 3. Dimitri helps and looks smooth. 4. Love. It actually was plenty simple, something Lysithea was proud of as she left with her friends. But then the scheming trio thought over it harder. His Highness would probably ask if he could help first. Ingrid said. And because it's Hilda, her answer would be, Claude paused to clear his throat, oh, sure thing. Do you mind grabbing this book here for me? Thanks a ton. How is it that somehow, being more knightly made it less romantic? Ash asked. Asking ruins the sudden surprise, plus, they're so casual with each other that asking means that they establish the normal, usual, friendly boundaries. Yeah, that makes sense, Claude said, before turning to stare at the sudden person behind him in shock. People. Raphael waved to the trio, carrying the rambling Bernadetta in a piggyback ride. If they could meet in a suitably romantic way, oh. If they met in a bar, with the runaway noble girl not knowing that the person she's serving is the king in disguise. But they already met, Ash pointed out. SHH, I want to hear this, Ingrid said. Wait, what am I doing? I should not be doing anything. I don't get it, Raphael said as Bernadetta began screaming. Why do you need such complicated plans? I can just go ahead and... Raphael started walking away, towards the chapel, bringing Bernadetta with him. Raphael? Buddy? What are you doing? Claude asked, concerned. And then Raphael started running. Raphael. And, they're gone, Ingrid said blandly. Should we stop them? Ash asked. We probably should. Claude exclaimed, because nothing good could come out of 3 of the strongest people in the school being in one building full of fragile glass and pieces of art. And then he tripped over Linhard. Linhard was napping as Ignatz drew a picture of the lake. Claude dramatically told Ingrid and Ash to keep going on without him, as he'd just slow them down. They did. Claude didn't have time to feel betrayed, because Ignatz, Mercedes, and Dida went to check if he was okay. The latter two had seen him fall from their classroom. Linhard yawned as he woke up in the midst of the action, asking what was happening. Claude tried to explain, but also, he was very dramatic, and thus had to start the story with, "So we were all trying to find ways to make Hilda and Dmitri finally end up together. Make them nap together." "Done," Linhard said, before trying to go back to sleep. "His Highness doesn't nap," Dida stated. "A pity, he should try it sometimes," Linhard said, nonchalantly laying down on top of Ignatz. Ignatz tried to be flustered, but then Claude asked him for ideas, and Ignatz had to think. Maybe, if they had to pose together? For a drawing. Ignatz offered. "So, like, one of yours." Ignatz immediately ignited, because there was no way he could manage a drawing of two people in it. Linhard was very opposed to the noise, and draped himself over Ignatz in a very cat-like way. Claude turned to Dida, who shook his head. "I cannot," Dida said. "His Highness asked my help in suppressing his feelings." Claude narrowed his eyes in an emotion that couldn't quite be defined. It was more of a, "that idiot did what," mixed with, "why are you people so dumb," mixed with, "I am so close to stealing Cupid's arrows and shooting you people in the face," than an emotion with a name. "Oh, maybe ghost stories," Mercedes exclaimed happily. "If one gets scared and clings to the other." "No," Dida said simply. Claude nodded, because he was thinking that a scary story would just prompt Hilda and Dmitri to destroy everything so there were no shadows for ghosts to hide in. "Oh, all right," Mercedes said. Claude thanked them and went off on his way. Ash and Ingrid went back for him, meeting him along with, a lot of people. Edelgard, Felix, Casper, Petra, Dorothea, Sylvain, the tea buddies. Hubert. "We needed everyone together to stop Raphael," Ingrid explained, single-handedly making Hubert's fear/admiration of Raphael improve. Or get worse. One or the other. Ash had already explained the situation. Edelgard immediately proposed a plan with a smile, suggesting having Hilda change her hairstyle to make Dimitri's heart throb at the sudden change. "That's a great idea," Dorothea exclaimed. "If we dress her up too, it'll be an extra kick to the heart." "Oh, a makeover?" Edelgard asked. "I was thinking something a bit more forceful, but that will do too." "Princess, were you suggesting setting Hilda's hair on fire?" Claude asked. There was a moment of silence as everyone stared at Edelgard. "Princess, please, we need to talk about that and justify the means philosophy of yours, especially when it comes to hurting our friends," Claude said, making Edelgard flinch. "So, would you rather we throw one or both down the stairs?" Hubert asked, because he made a grave error regarding what the fuck was happening. He thought Edelgard was throwing out an euphemism for assassination. "Please stop," Claude asked. And then Lawrence and Ferdinand spoke. And laughed. They suggested a tea party, because there was nothing as soul-bearing and romantic subtext-laden as tea parties. "They already do those platonically," Claude said, air quotes, and all. Ferdinand and Lawrence were completely stunned into silence. "I am not understanding," Petra said. "Is this not a problem resolved by locking into a room alone?" Plan N, Ash said. "No," Ingrid exclaimed instinctively. "N. Not M." Ash corrected quickly. "What's Plan M?" Casper asked, and Ingrid's face grew pale. "Oh, it's... No." Ingrid cut off Claude's explanation. "We are not exposing anyone's muscles." "No, that actually could work," Felix said. "That's a great idea," Casper exclaimed, making Ingrid scream. "I kinda want to see that," Dorothea admitted, making Ingrid scream harder. "Is there really no other way?" Ingrid demanded. "Nothing. Nothing else at all." "Love letters," Sylvain suggested. "Yes." Ingrid cried out in relief. "Like love letters." "I'll steal the letter from the chapel and hand it to Hilda," Ash said. "You? Committing theft?" Felix asked incredulously. "I've done it before and I'll do it again," Ash replied. Felix didn't have time to ponder on sudden bad boy syndrome Ash, because then Sylvain said, "No, no, there's no way that could end well. I was thinking more like, author one ourselves. Maybe one asking her to the ball next month." Claude's eyes lit up in delight. "The ball? That's it. I've got a crazy, stupid idea." Hilda sneezed in the middle of choir practice. "Are you all right?" Dimitri asked. "Would you like a handkerchief?" "No, I'm good," Hilda answered. "I just have the feeling that something bad will happen." Chapter 33. Claude had practically barricaded himself in the library, absolutely burning through books on Garreg Mach's history, past archbishops, and the history of the church. Now, there were a list of people who knew what he was doing. The list consisted of himself, Ingrid, and Ash, because he had dragged the latter two into helping him. There was also a list of people who didn't know what he was doing, but thought they knew. This list consisted of Solon and Edelgard, and they had both come to the same conclusion. Claude was onto something important. Something very, very, very important that tied together the church, the building, the archbishops, and crests. Now, Solon wasn't one for fear. Fear was what a person felt when they were confronted with an actual threat. But there was a certain apprehension about him, as Claude investigated. The nagging feeling that he saw through the disguise, that he could free Edelgard from their grasp. No matter. He would simply crush that boy under his grip. Edelgard, on the other hand, was delighted, terrified, and anxious. If Claude was going to learn the truth, then he'd be on her side. She would never have to strike him down. They could make their ideal world together. But she was scared. She was scared Claude was making himself a target. She was scared he would still denounce her, say her way was wrong. That she would have to. Edelgard didn't know when she had gone from thinking her actions were regrettable, but necessary, to wishing she didn't have to. But as the days went on, she found her resolve wavering. No one in the monastery asked for war. None of the innocent people she would drag into bloodshed asked for war. Her mission was right, but she would have to destroy the stubborn, growing feeling in her chest. "You all right there, princess?" Claude asked, and Edelgard snapped back to reality. She was in a restaurant, eating lunch with Claude. "I'm fine," Edelgard said simply. "You were saying?" Claude shook his head, pointing his skewer at Edelgard. "Hey, I've rambled on enough about the monastery's traditions, haven't I? I want to hear what's on your mind." Edelgard hesitated. "I was mostly thinking of what you were researching," Edelgard answered. "So, you were lost in thought over the legends of the goddess tower, and not possibly thinking about terrible enemies?" Claude asked. What? Claude took her surprise as an admission of guilt, frowning as he said, "I knew it." "You did?" Edelgard asked. "Another one of those jerks that thinks you must have had something to do with Monica did something, didn't they?" Claude said. "Hilda and I have been yelling at them to knock it off, but I guess we couldn't stop everyone." "Sorry." Edelgard's heart sank. These people trusted her so much. They defended her, but... Princess. Claude's concerned eyes were like a dagger in her. "You shouldn't have," she said, struggling to keep her voice even. Unemotional. The truth blocked her throat and threatened to fall from her tongue. "Of course I should have," Claude answered. "No matter what others say about you, I'm on your side, Edelgard." Her heart was pounding. She couldn't look him in the eyes. He was offering his hand to a desperate girl who wanted nothing more than to take it. She wanted to trust him, she wanted him by her side, she wanted him rather than those snakes she loathed, she wanted. A thought clicked together in Edelgard's head as her heart hammered away in her chest. "Can I?" Chapter 34. Claude had recently started dragging Professor Byleth into the library too. Solon immediately interpreted this in the worst possible way, cancelled his plans for Remire, and retreated into the depths of the library for a very long time. Claude was just telling them about an idea he had, because Byleth were simultaneously the most likely to help if he straight up asked and the weirdest, most accessible of the teachers. Because a lot of research and discussion with Ash and Ingrid about how to best use the goddess tower to their advantage had given him lots of ideas. Professor Byleth called for Edelgard in the dining hall. "Professor, is something the matter?" Edelgard asked. Professor Byleth mentioned something from a discussion they had with the teachers of the other houses. "I see, wait. Wait, Professor." Hilda was smirking behind her hand, trying very hard not to outright start laughing. And failing. "Hilda," Dmitri said simply, "please." "I'm sorry," Hilda exclaimed between giggles. "It's just the White Heron Cup. Did you even want to be the representative?" "No," Dmitri answered. "I absolutely did not." "And you got chosen anyways?" Hilda asked. "Yes," Dmitri admitted. Hilda started laughing again, the sound seeming so much louder in the empty gazebo they were sitting in. "I had no choice," Dmitri exclaimed defensively. "Professor Manuela had informed me that the house leaders were the ones chosen to represent their houses, just as they led their houses, so I couldn't object." "Oh, so Claude's not the only one," Hilda said. "Gosh, it's probably be so awkward at the competition when they're flirting and all, and you're just trying to dance. Please do not remind me of the competition," Dmitri requested. "Don't worry, Claude sucks at dancing," Hilda said instantly. "You'd have to be drunk to lose to him." Claude had the sudden feeling he ought to have been offended. "That's not what I meant," Dmitri said. It's a bit embarrassing to be put on the spot like that," Hilda hummed, before standing up from the gazebo floor. "Then, why not practice?" she asked with a smile, offering her hand to Dmitri. Pardon," Dmitri said, staring at her hand with wide eyes. "If you practice a lot, you'll feel less nervous when the time comes," Hilda reasoned. "Besides, I just really want to dance." "Do you like dancing?" Dmitri asked as he took her hand. Hilda seemed to sparkle in happiness as she lifted him up. "Yeah. I love to dance," Hilda declared. "I was so disappointed when Claude was chosen as our representative." "Are you sure you want to help me practice?" Dmitri asked. "After all, I'm competing against Claude. It's fine. I mean, it's a competition between friends, so there's no hard feelings no matter who wins or loses." Dmitri managed a smile at that, something that made Hilda's gaze become fond. "Well, if you don't mind, may I have this dance?" Dmitri asked, offering his hand to Hilda. "Absolutely." Hilda laughed as she took Dmitri's hand. Her left arm wrapped around his side, her other hand resting on the middle of his back. Dmitri's other arm went around her waist, holding her close. Probably much closer than either of them really strictly needed to be for a dance between friends. We don't actually have music, now that I think about it," Hilda noted. "Want me to count out the steps?" "That would be helpful, yes," Dmitri answered, focusing a lot on not stepping on her toes. "Geez, Dmitri, you're too stiff," Hilda exclaimed. "You gotta relax, I'm not gonna get mad at you for messing up or something." She started to count, repeating whenever they finished the cycle. "You're really good at this, Dmitri," Hilda said. "I'm not even sure you need the practice." "It's all thanks to your guidance," Dmitri replied humbly. "No way, I'm barely doing anything," Hilda shot back. Now, this would have probably resulted in an endless loop of trying to deflect the praise to the other, if not for a sudden misstep. Hilda stumbled forward, right into Dmitri's chest. He caught her with both arms, trying to steady her. "Are you all right?" Dmitri asked. Hilda paused, resting her head on Dmitri's chest. She wasn't sure whether the heartbeat pulsing in her ears was hers or his. "Yeah," she answered quietly. Her voice came out a bit muffled from his all-encompassing embrace. Seriously, he was so much taller than her. And so muscular, too. She kind of wanted to stay in his warm arms for a bit longer. But then Hilda let out a deep breath, stepped a bit back, and smiled. Sorry, that was totally my fault," she said, her voice as excited as usual. "Wanna keep practicing, or is that enough for today?" Hilda put the ball in Dmitri's court, completely willing to accept whatever choice he made. And Dmitri, well, His head was telling him that he should say no, his rapid heartbeat would give him away any second. He couldn't be selfish, not when Hilda deserved a future full of happiness that he was not a part of. He couldn't get so close that he wouldn't be able to say goodbye. But, staring at her kind smile, what came out of his mouth was an almost timid, "If you're uninjured, then I suppose one more dance won't hurt." Hilda's face brightened, and suddenly, Dmitri couldn't bear the thought of making that smile disappear from her face. Chapter 35. Dmitri really wanted to go and tell Hilda that he really couldn't keep dancing with her. But because he was selfish, because he didn't want to let go of her, because he didn't want to see her smile disappear, he said yes again. And again, until it became a sort of habit. "You're gonna wow everyone with steps these good," Hilda promised, grinning as they practiced once again. "Will you be watching the competition?" Dmitri asked, trying not to feel nervous at the thought. "Yeah, of course. There's no way I could miss it," Hilda declared. "I definitely want to see you sweep away the competition." "I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I fear you would be disappointed," Dmitri said. "Edelgard is probably still the better dancer." "Still?" Hilda asked. "Edelgard taught me how to dance when we were children," Dmitri told her. Before he could mention how strict his teacher was and how awkward the experience was, Hilda gasped. "Huh? Isn't this some sort of crazy romance play plot?" Pardon?" Dmitri asked, too baffled to process that right. "I mean, meeting your first love, the girl who taught you how to dance, at school again, only for her to fall in love with someone else. Gosh. You ought to step up your game, Anne." "Hilda, Edelgard is my stepsister," Dmitri interjected, too flustered to be more polite with it. "She is?" Hilda asked in shock. "Yes, her mother was my stepmother," Dmitri said. "We only knew each other for a short amount of time, but it was rather fun." "Why are you talking like it's all in the past? She's right here, right now, right?" "No, we've both changed since that time. It's..." Dmitri paused, because suddenly Hilda was pouting. "Come on!" Hilda exclaimed, breaking away from their dance. She pulled on his hand, dragging him out of the gazebo area. "Hilda! What are you? Where are we going?" Dmitri demanded. "To Edelgard." Dmitri absolutely couldn't protest with Hilda in this kind of determined mood. He was actually relieved when Hilda was told that Claude and Edelgard had left for a trip to town. Hilda pouted as she sat with Dmitri in the reception hall. "Gosh, what terrible luck," she said. "Well, it wouldn't do to just interrupt their date," Dmitri replied, trying to placate Hilda. "Arg. These stupid lovebirds. Going on a date when it's so important. I'm happy for them, but arg." She smushed her face into the table as she groaned. "Really, Hilda, why did you suddenly want to bring me to Edelgard in the first place?" Dmitri asked. Hilda turned her head to face Dmitri, her cheek still pressed against the table. "You seemed like you already gave up, you know," she answered. "Even though there was a chance, you seemed like you just completely gave up on it. But it's not too late to talk to each other again, not at all." She sighed, a pensive expression on her face. "I guess I didn't want you to give up," Hilda said, almost laughing at the irony. Dmitri felt a little bit desperate to get her to smile again, so. "We could always try again when they're here. In the meantime, would you like to spend some time in the greenhouse?" Dmitri asked. "We can look over the flowers together." "Yeah, that'd be nice." Hilda's dejected tone quickly fell away when they got there. After a while of admiring the flowers, Professor Byleth showed up and gave them a bunch of different flowers. Hilda immediately decided to bring Dmitri outside and show him how to make a flower crown. Hilda was probably the only person who could drag Dmitri around by the hand, sit with him on the grass, and make flower crowns with him. "Hey, Dmitri, can you lean down a bit?" Hilda asked. Why?" Dmitri asked, despite already doing it. Hilda couldn't resist patting him on the head, before placing her crown on top of his hair. "That's why," Hilda said simply. Dmitri accidentally crushed his attempt at a flower crown again. Hilda smiled and said there were more than enough flowers for him to try one more time. Later, after they separated, Dmitri sort of drifted towards the library. He did not notice anyone giving him weird stares as he walked, too caught up in his own thoughts. He went to look at a book on flower language, only for his hand to meet with another person's on the book's spine. "Ah," Edelgard said. Dmitri's gaze immediately went to the bouquet of orange roses in her other arm, while her stare went to the crown of violets and lavender on his head. Normally, Dmitri would have immediately offered to let her have it out of chivalry. But instead, he asked, "Would you like to read over the book together?" "I don't mind," was Edelgard's answer. They sat together at a table, side by side. Edelgard flipped through the pages in silence, Dmitri looking over her shoulder at the illustrations. It was awkward. Really awkward. "Did Claude get you that bouquet?" Dmitri asked, trying to break the ice. Edelgard's body tensed at the question. "Yes, he did," Edelgard answered after a bit. "Then, your outing date went well?" "Our business meeting was satisfactory," Edelgard settled on the word with a distinctly unsatisfied expression. She didn't get to talk to Claude much about, well, everything, but damn it, she needed to change the subject before she let sensitive info slip. "I didn't take you for the flower type," Edelgard said. "Is it another gift from Hilda?" Dmitri blushed, answering, "Yes, it is. It seems that the two of you are rather close. Should I expect news of a happy union soon?" Edelgard asked, grinning from the sudden chance. "No, nothing of the sort. In fact, is that not a question I should be asking you?" Dmitri shot back. "I've heard whispers that you and Claude have been exchanging flowers for a while now." He heard that from Hilda. That's none of your business." Dmitri let out a laugh. "Forgive me, El. I simply meant to jest a bit." Edelgard stared at Dmitri in shock. "El?" she echoed. "I'm sorry. That old nickname simply slipped off my tongue." "No, it's fine," Edelgard answered. "It's simply been a long time since I heard it." There was a moment of silence as Edelgard continued flipping through the book's pages. Her hand landed on lavender, and she immediately read it to him. "Devotion and virtue," and from memory of her previous bouquet, she added that, while violets mean loyalty, faithfulness, and devotion. She smirked at Dmitri in victory, before Dmitri insisted she go to the page on roses. When she read that orange roses meant desire and enthusiasm. Well, they were both left blushing in the end. Which confused Edelgard, because wasn't this just a confirmation that they were business partners? Why did the thought of Claude desiring her make her heart beat faster? Edelgard's eyes widened as she realized, oh no. She wanted to rule by Claude's side, but in the romantic, battle, and business partners sort of way. "Excuse me," Edelgard said, leaving the book to Dmitri. Professor Byleth looked at the confession box with an exasperated expression. The sister was busy drawing up a sign telling people to only take one paper for their confessions. "Please lend me your aid." Byleth skipped the next 4.5 pages, eyes landing on the last sentence. "I fear that I've grown unfortunate feelings for a colleague. How might I hide these feelings from him until they ebb away?" They then looked at the other letter in the confession box, which was an actual reasonable length. "Hey, Teach, I think I might have messed up. I've got a thing going with a girl, and we're obviously into each other, but not quite dating yet. I gave her a bouquet after one of our dates, and she's been avoiding me ever since. Was it too much?" Professor Byleth's answer was to sigh and start massaging their temples with one hand. Suthies was already screaming. There were 2 fucking weeks until the ball and the White Heron Cup, and they could not fucking deal with this. Chapter 36, Holy shit, Dmitri. What makes you think that this will work at all? Felix asked bluntly, standing in front of the desk Ingrid was sitting at. She had a piece of paper and a quill at the ready, while Ash sat next to her. Around their side of the table, the rest of the Blue Lions, minus Dmitri, were gathered. "Absolutely nothing, but that won't stop us from trying," Ingrid replied. Felix didn't know why he didn't expect that answer. There was so much wrong with this plan. There were so many things that could go wrong with writing a love letter in Dimitri's name and delivering it to Hilda. You think we should add something about giving her a dagger? Sylvain asked. Oh, maybe something from that confession letter. Annette offered. I remember it being so romantic. But, what did it say again? Don't worry, Annie, I'm sure you'll remember it, Mercedes said. Dida was silent in the corner, because, well, scheming was apparently how everyone hung out now, except he wasn't supposed to encourage Dimitri's feelings. His compromise was sitting in the corner. No one decided to question why Mercedes was hugging his arm. Sylvain wanted to, but honestly, after seeing how dumb everyone else was with love, he was just happy someone could actually do romance right. Meanwhile, Felix was busy questioning their plan. Their plan was stupid in his eyes. There was literally so much that could go wrong with faking a love letter to Hilda. Actually, I have the confession letter right here, Ash said. You stole it. Annette gasped in shock. Both of them, Ash answered. Suthies was fucking screaming even louder, because she had worked so hard on the most scathing, furious retort possible to Edelgard's confession letter, but the letter was just gone. Byleth just sighed. Mercedes took both letters, handing one to Didu. That one turned out to be Edelgard's. When he smiles, my heart is sent into a frenzy. Is it wrong that I yearn for him to call my name? Didu read, because technically, just reading a letter out loud was not sabotaging Dimitri's attempts to suppress his feelings. Their eyes are like stars, sparkling in the darkness, Mercedes added, before grimacing. What? Sylvain asked. Is it something embarrassing? Mercedes didn't know how to explain it, so she just handed Dimitri's letter over to Sylvain. A Valkyrie in battle would pale before their might. Every time I witness it, I am transfixed by. Sylvain trailed off, his eyebrows raising with each word. Holy shit, Dimitri. Holy shit, it goes on for 2 pages. Only 2 pages. Felix asked. I would have thought that the boar would write the entire thing about her battle prowess. So we would focus a lot on Hilda's ability to fight in the letter. Ash exclaimed excitedly. Oh, and how nice she is to hug. Annette added. What? Felix asked. It just seems like the sort of thing you add to a love letter. I've known His Highness for so many years, and I legitimately do not think he would still be alive after hugging a girl he had a crush on, Sylvain said bluntly. Wow, I would have expected this from Felix, but... Ash trailed off. Look, I'm a master of flirting. Debatable, Felix interjected. But His Highness? Needs a literal class on how to date someone. I will sit down with him and teach him how to flirt if I have to. Please don't, Ingrid asked. Maybe that could be part of the letter. Mercedes suggested. Like, I will grow to overcome my weaknesses for you, or something. Great. Ash said. And, that quote from the Sacred Twins. I know exactly the one you're talking about. Ingrid exclaimed, her quill working furiously. Do you even know how to copy the boar's handwriting? Felix asked bluntly. Absolutely not, Ingrid answered instantly. Ash and Ingrid decided to just kinda shrug off the idea of failure, because fuck that, they were being helpful so this had to work. So, Ash decided to collect more info while Ingrid jotted it down. The others in the room slowly began to gravitate towards the letter, until everyone but Felix was all looking over Ingrid's shoulder as she wrote. Sweeter than a cupcake, can't we go on a date? Annette offered, the words coming out in the form of a song. When I'm with you, every day is fun. Mercedes added. Dida did not add anything. He simply observed that Dimitri would probably be more formal in wording than that. Baby, I know you're the only one for me, Sylvain said. No, Ingrid replied. Ash looked to Felix. No. Felix exclaimed instantly. I am not playing along with this nonsense. Ash's smile dropped off his face. He gave off the incredible aura of a sad puppy. And Felix, just, kind of could not handle that, just like he couldn't handle Ash complimenting him or generally being cute. Just say something about, not being able to tear your eyes away. Or whatever. Thanks, Felix. All right, I've got the mushy romance stuff down, Ingrid said. Ash? We need every night book we've ever read. Why? Sylvain asked flatly. Look me in the eye and tell me that His Highness would not write at least 2 paragraphs dedicated to skill in battle in a love letter. Okay, sure, Sylvain said. I guess. This is fine. Remember. Her smile banishes the darkness. Annette exclaimed. That was how a ridiculous and strange love letter signed with Dimitri's name wound up stuck in Hilda's door. Hilda looked up from the letter, ascertaining that Dimitri was still right next to her. He was politely turned away from her so he wouldn't accidentally catch sight of any of the private letter. He had been with her the entire day, helping her with an assignment she forgot to do in the face of the White Heron Cup and the ball. Her gaze went back to the letter, and she almost burst out laughing. This handwriting isn't anything like Dimitri's at all, she noted. You're joking, right? There's no way Dimitri could have a crush on me. Don't mess around and get my hopes up. It's just another love letter, Hilda said, folding it up and tucking it in her pocket. Another one? Dimitri asked, turning back to her. Yeah, I get them all the time, Hilda answered. Dimitri's expression became an awkward, almost pained smile. I see, are you not going to reply? Hilda felt her brows furrow together, her mouth falling open in confusion. No, I'm really not. Not now, Hilda said. And she could hardly miss his relieved sigh at her words, though he quickly tried to adopt a polite smile. I can hardly fault you for wanting to dispose of unwanted admirers. Though, I admire the bravery needed to send such a letter even in the face of certain rejection. Hey, wait. Wait a fucking second. I appreciate the bravery too, but, I've got to focus on the important stuff. Hilda exclaimed quickly. I mean, you still need to practice for the White Heron Cup. That's way more important than some unknown, prank, love letter. I'm honored to be such a high priority, then, Dimitri said, looking away with a pink tint to his face. Wait, no what? Ha, of course. Hilda exclaimed with a bright smile, even though she was internally screaming and not quite filtering her words right. I like you a lot, so naturally I'm gonna want to help you out. What the fuck am I fucking saying? Oh goddess help me. Hold on. Saying something like that so openly, that will cause a misunderstanding. Dimitri exclaimed, his face turning even redder. Holy shit, Dimitri. Hilda thought. No, she couldn't just assume, she was just, employing wishful thinking. That had to be it. Dimitri was just the sort of guy who blushed easily. It meant nothing. That. Yeah, sorry, I'll, just put away my books and we can practice. Sorry. Thanks again for helping me. Hilda exclaimed, retreating into her room. Her heart was fucking racing as she left her books on her desk, pulling out a drawer. She grabbed a hairbrush and a mirror, sticking a hairpin between her teeth as she hurried her work along. I might fall asleep in Professor Hanneman's classes, but I still know some things about science. You need more than one piece of proof to say that a conclusion is true. If I switch up my hairstyle and he doesn't react in a blushy way, he doesn't like me. She pulled her hair into a bun at the top of her head, sticking the flower hairpin he got her in her bangs. Come on, scientific method. Don't fail me now. With a smile, Hilda left her room and closed the door behind her. Sorry for the wait. Dimitri's eyes widened. I don't mind at all, he said hurriedly. But, your hair. Oh, yeah, Hilda said in a nonchalant way. I realized that my long hair, it might get in the way when we're dancing. So I did a bun, and added your hairpin to finish things off. Cute, right? You are, Dimitri answered, though he quickly added, well, you're always beautiful, but... Ah, thanks, Dimitri. Hilda thought, as she was internally screaming, holy shit, Dimitri. She grabbed him by the hand, saying, well, let's go, then. Time's wasting. Super casually, as if she wasn't panicking. If if he doesn't react to the trap I'll lay while we're dancing, he doesn't have feelings for me. Hilda kept smiling and chattering as she guided him to the gazebo. Hey, the normal steps are good enough, but it gets boring when you've already mastered them, right? My favorite part of dancing is the fun tricks you can pull. The tricks? Dmitri repeated. You know, like lifting your partner into the air, dipping them low, spinning them around. Hilda said as they reached their usual dancing spot. They were still holding hands, she noticed. Stuff like that is so much fun. Would you like to try it, then? Dmitri offered. Even though it was her idea in the first place, Hilda felt herself getting a bit flustered. Well, you don't have to. I just thought, hey, adding some variety might excite the judges, so, it's only if you want to. I'm already in your debt, since you're helping me practice. The least I could do is make it more enjoyable for you, Dmitri replied. Hilda couldn't really say no to that, so they started dancing. At first, it was the same as usual, save for Hilda's nervousness. Then, Hilda asked if he could twirl her around. Hours of practice meant that Dmitri did as she asked with ease. Eventually, she stopped having to ask him out loud. A squeeze of his hand meant to twirl her around, a squeeze of his shoulder meant that he had to carry her. Dmitri lifted her into the air as she laughed. It was exhilarating, being so in sync, but Hilda knew it was time for the dance to end. With a tug on his shirt, Hilda asked. With a single movement, Dmitri answered. He dipped her low, and their feet stopped. Their breathing was quick, their bodies sweaty, their faces flushed from the exertion, surely. But Hilda didn't know whether the rapid heartbeat she felt was hers or Dmitri's. Their bodies were too close for her to tell. There was a moment of absolutely stillness, quietness, like neither of them really wanted the moment to end. Hilda could only close her eyes and focus on the feeling of his arm around her body, his chest against hers, her breathing, because the alternative was looking up at him and having their eyes meet. Dmitri was staring, and she knew it. She must have looked like a mess, with her hairpin slipping off, with her hair starting to fall out of her bun, with such an embarrassed expression. She cracked an eye open. Dmitri seemed to be completely entranced, and, holy shit, Dmitri, your face is a lot closer than I thought it was. Hilda thought in a panic. It would be so easy for their lips to meet, when there was so little space between them. Normally, there was so much distance between there. Hilda gulped, before giving Dmitri a smile. You're really good, she said. Dmitri seemed to slowly come back to earth at the sound of her voice. And before the last shreds of her courage ran away from her, she lifted her hand to his cheek. She pressed a kiss to his other cheek, pulling away with a, make sure you win, okay? If you do, I'll do you one better. Dmitri short-circuited, letting Hilda escape his grip easily. Thanks for the dance, Hilda exclaimed, before running away, leaving Dmitri behind. Help help help, I fucked up and kissed my crush on the cheek and promised him I would do better if he won, but I don't even know what that means, and fuck, what do I do? That, Professor Byleth actually knew the answer to. A kiss on the lips. Chapter 37. Claude yawned as he walked. It was the perfect time for an afternoon nap. He figured no one would be in the gazebo, so he planned to have his nap around that area. Except he found Dmitri there, and he was kinda thinking that maybe Dmitri was dead. Dmitri was sitting on the floor of the gazebo, propped up against the one of the gazebo's pillars, with his left hand resting on his cheek. Yo-ho, Prince Dmitri? You there? At all? Claude asked, crouching down before Dmitri and waving a hand in front of the blonde's face. Did you get punched in the face or something? See Claude? Dmitri flinched at the sudden voice, scrambling to sit up straight. Yep, that's me. Glad to see that your brain trauma hasn't erased all of our fun memories together. You've misunderstood. I was not punched in the face. Oh? Interesting. Claude exclaimed. What could have you looking so down then? It was nothing of great importance, Dmitri said. Come now, Your Highness, there's no secrets here. I'm lending you my shoulder to cry on, if you need it. Dmitri narrowed his eyes at Claude. After a few seconds, Claude's smile became a bit awkward. No, really, I know I don't seem the type, Claude said, dropping his joking tone, but there's no strings attached. I just want to hear you out, you know. Dmitri sighed. I apologize. It seems that I've been too on edge, lately. Hey, wouldn't blame you. If I had to go up against me in a dancing competition, I'd be nervous too, Claude said, moving to sit cross-legged in front of Dmitri. Is that so? From what I've heard, I would think it'd be the opposite, Dmitri stated. What? Who told you that? Was it Lawrence? Hilda. At the sound of Hilda's name, Dmitri unconsciously blushed. From Dmitri's reaction to her name, something must have happened, huh? Something very good. Claude had a very sudden idea of why Dmitri was sitting on the floor of a gazebo, holding his face. You two were even closer than I thought, huh? What could you possibly mean? Why, from your tone, I would think you were positively smitten. When can I expect the happy union? I cannot wait to hear about how you marry Laura ha 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 ha. Claude couldn't even finish the name before bursting into laughter. Claude. Sorry, couldn't resist. Claude exclaimed. Dmitri tried to glare at Claude, but he was so embarrassed that he just looked like a mildly annoyed golden retriever. But, seriously, did something happen between you two? Claude asked, trying to smile like a normal concerned friend and not like a mastermind whose plans were coming to fruition. Dmitri hesitated, before saying. She, kissed me. On the cheek. Nice. You gonna ask her out soon? What? No, I couldn't possibly. Dmitri couldn't, not when he had to get revenge, not when she would be disgusted by him, not when. She deserves better than a man like me, Dmitri said, and Claude sighed. Lots of people don't get what they deserve, lots of people don't deserve what they get, Claude retorted, but people? They're more complicated than that. Dmitri was silent. There are those who make their choices based off who's well off, who's got connections, yeah, but don't you think that this is different? Claude stood up, stretching his arms above his head. He stared down at Dmitri, and with a sudden, impassive voice. I'm not telling you to say yes if you hate it. But, if you really don't want to return her feelings at all, at least tell her why instead of this, you deserve better than me, bullshit. Otherwise, I might actually punch you. Turning back with the same smile as always, Claude sounded jovial once again as he said, well, that's all. See you around. Dmitri let out a sigh. That's right, at the very least, I should tell her the truth. But somehow, he just wanted to wait a little bit longer, even though he knew that would just be selfishly hurting the two of them. Dmitri hadn't really intended to win the White Heron Cup. Really. It was an accident. He didn't actually think he would win, even with his practice with Hilda. It's just that, well. Claude immediately started doing some insane dance that involved jumping on a table and asking Edelgard to dance with him. Apparently, he had said something like, "You've been avoiding me lately, so this was bound to get your eyes on me again." While posing dramatically. Edelgard couldn't resist bursting into laughter and started dancing with Claude. Unfortunately, they had already both gotten disqualified by this time. Dmitri just didn't learn this until afterwards, however, because he had closed his eyes and focused so hard on dancing that he didn't even notice the chaos happening behind his back. He didn't even know if that really qualified as a win. He outright asked the judges if there was a mistake. But Edelgard congratulated him like he had won anyways. Claude even threw his arm around Dmitri's shoulders, laughing like that conversation in the gazebo never happened. Professor Manuela handed him his prize. It was a bundle of clothes. Oh no. Congratulations. You're qualified to become a dancer. Oh no. Professor Manuela winked, before saying, use your skills well. There was applause from the others in the hall, cheers from his childhood friends, and footsteps coming towards them. Here you go. Hilda exclaimed, thrusting a bouquet of flowers into Dmitri's arms. Did you prepare this because he knew you would win? And, here's a gift from, your childhood friends. She gave Dmitri a sword, a book on knights, and a dagger, and Mercedes, a net, and Ash. She put a box of chocolates into his arms too, putting it in a precarious position just on top of the book. Thank you. Dmitri said hurriedly, ignoring Claude's snicker by his shoulder. You didn't get Dmitri anything? Edelgard asked. Well, I asked to give the gifts, but, right now, it's just a surprise. Hilda declared, before pointing at Dmitri. I'll look forward to it. It'll be ready soon. You have to look forward to it, okay? Yes, I will. Dmitri answered. With that, Hilda left, leaving Dmitri behind with flowers and a set of clothes in his arms, a sword in one hand and a dagger in the other, and a book and a box of chocolates resting on top of his awkward pile. Claude started laughing as Dida came to help Dmitri carry it all. Throughout it all, despite his earlier wishes to end whatever they had quickly, Dmitri couldn't help but be curious as to what Hilda had in mind. Maybe, a few days more wouldn't hurt. Help, I have no idea what I'm doing and you're one of the only people here who seems to have any idea how romance works, Hilda asked, charging into the Black Eagle's classroom. There weren't that many people there. Only 4 students were left. Me? Edelgard asked. How did you get that idea? Dorothea immediately started laughing, before a careless remark from Casper reminded the singer that she wasn't much better. Look, please, I don't have time for self-depreciation. I just need advice, please. I will make you an entire necklace if I have to. No, that's not necessary. Please, calm down, I have no idea what you need from me. Edelgard exclaimed, because Hilda seemed about to burst into tears and she was not comfortable with that. Remember. No lethality. Petra interjected as she packed up her things. If it is necessary, I will give her a head cut. Please don't. That would kill me, Hilda retorted. Haircut, Dorothea corrected. Also, muscles make everyone fall. Casper added. Dorothea is proof. Stop that. Edelgard paused to think. This is about Dmitri? Didn't you have some sort of surprise for him? Hilda blushed, making Dorothea go, aha. You need help getting it ready, right? The others gathered around Hilda. All right. I have no problem helping you out in exchange for a sparring match. I don't have a surprise. I just blurted it out. Hilda exclaimed, cutting Casper off. Pardon? Am I having understanding? Did you claim a lie? Okay, so Professor Byleth said to kiss him on the lips, but there's no way I could do that and it's been a few days and I think I disappointed him and I don't want to disappoint him, Hilda said in a panic, so please help. Have you tried giving him flowers? Edelgard asked. Not really. There you go, then, Edelgard said. No, isn't it his birthday tomorrow? At least add food or something. Casper exclaimed. It's his birthday tomorrow? Hilda asked. Yeah, heard it from Sylvain, Casper said. I did not have knowledge you were friends, Petra noted. We spar sometimes and talk after, but that's not that important. Ah, isn't that perfect? Dorothea said. You could dress up, give him some flowers, and hand him a homemade cake and it'll seem like you prepared it all for his birthday. Wow, thanks, guys. Edelgard had a very satisfied grin on as Petra offered to slice Hilda's hair for the event, though. Ah, happy moments like these just make everything harder. Dmitri. Sorry for the wait. Dmitri turned away from the training dummy, before dropping his lance. Hilda had her hair tied up in a ponytail with a deep blue ribbon thanks to Petra. She had a container of sweets she made with Edelgard and Dorothea, plus, the confidence of Casper yelling at her to believe in herself. Happy birthday! Hilda exclaimed. I hope you like the snacks. I appreciate it, Dmitri said hurriedly. And, despite the smile on his face, Hilda could quickly feel herself growing shy. It wasn't like she was playfully flirting with some other students, trying to get them to do her favors, she really, honestly was nervous about messing it up. She had made an entire plan on how she'd drag him around town and get him flowers, but... well, That's all. Bye. And she turned to leave. Wait. Dmitri caught her wrist, making Hilda freeze in place. You need something? Hilda asked, trying to sound casual. I can't just continue accepting your kindness. Dmitri declared. Please, allow me to do something to make you happy in return. No, that's really not necessary. Please, Hilda, Dmitri asked. I'm desperate to hang on to you a bit longer. Dmitri realized. I'm sorry for my selfishness, Dmitri said, but I sincerely desire to stay with you. Then, Hilda said slowly, unwilling to turn back and let her blushing face be seen, save a dance for me at the ball, please. Of course, Dmitri promised, before letting her go. I'll dance with you one last time, before I tell you why I can't accept either of our feelings. Flane was very sad recently. So naturally, Manuela, as a wise and wonderful woman, had to check up on her. As a sisterly influence. This event is for students only, Flane said sadly, and my request to join the Black Eagles was rejected. As a result, I cannot participate. Flane looked so sad and disappointed as she added, oh, how I longed to dance under those glowing lights, wearing a beautiful dress, no matter. I cannot bother others with my childish desires. Manuela shushed Flane gently. Manuela then single-handedly argued for Flane's case to everyone so well that not only was Flane allowed to go, but the rule that students were to participate in their uniforms abolished. There were only a few days to prepare fine clothing for the ball, but Manuela refused to stop there. She helped all the students who couldn't afford such clothing acquire some. She even managed to convince Seath to maybe chill a little in regards to Flane and dancing and other people. Which sort of involved buttering him up and making him her drinking buddy. This was in no way a decision that could end badly. Chapter 38. The ball went about as well as you'd expect. I don't want to be here. Bernadetta whimpered. Petra was trying to encourage her, when Raphael came in. Don't worry about it. No matter what you do, no one will mind. Raphael exclaimed, before striding onto the dance floor and starting to dance like a man possessed. He terrified people off of the dance floor with his moves, making Hubert fearful. The tea buddies were dancing, Ingrid and Marianne were chatting over tea, Claude and Edelgard had snuck off, Dorothea was trying to teach Leonie to dance, Sylvain was trying to get Felix to ask Ash to dance and got insulted for his troubles, Annette, Cyril and Lysathea were heading for the suites, Mercedes and Dida were chatting, Linhard and Ignatz had went to the library because they both did not like the crowd and noise, Casper had joined Raphael, and he's outside? Hilda asked. Professor Byleth nodded, telling Hilda how they had taken a break from the crowd and run into Dmitri outside. Seemed he was uncomfortable. Hilda let out a bitter, hollow chuckle as she remembered just how many people had attempted to dance with Dmitri. Of course he didn't want to deal with that. But he promised me a dance. Hilda thought, before getting an idea. What if I just go to him instead of waiting in here all night? Smiling, she thanked the professor and went to leave to look for Dmitri. One last dance. I swore it, but I'm putting it off until the last moment, Dmitri thought, sighing up at the sight of the goddess tower dyed in the colors of early evening. From the courtyard by the reception hall, he could hardly make out the details on it. It was wrong to get his hopes up. Dmitri couldn't think of possibly, actually being with her. He didn't have a right to think of pursuing his childish feelings when he might not have a future to promise to her. He didn't have the right to stain such a pure heart with his scarred soul. So why was he even waiting for her? Being so happy, it scared him. Maybe if he never went back inside, they wouldn't have to address it. As he was lost in his thoughts, Dmitri caught sight of pink hair. Moving without thinking, he made his way over to her. Hilda's short-sleeved gown was the same color as the night sky and cut with a sweetheart neckline. Her bangs were brushed aside with her flower hairpin. Are you not making a vow with anyone? The question slipped out before he could stop it, making Hilda pause. She looked him up and down, taking in his outfit. Dmitri couldn't help but feel a bit nervous about her appraisal. He had worn a white swallow-tailed coat over a deep blue vest and black pants. Frills hung from his shirt collar, over his vest. A few heart-pounding seconds passed, before Hilda smiled. At the sight of that smile, Dmitri felt his heart start pounding. And here I was, thinking you had someone else to go with. You, what? Dmitri asked. To be honest, Hilda started off, grinning conspiratorially up at him. I saw you around here, and you looked like you were waiting for someone, so I thought I'd wait around a bit, see if you had a date. But then, you walked towards me, so here we are, I guess. The way she talked about it made it seem like it was simply by chance that they encountered each other. Then, why were you here, if I might ask? I was looking for you. You did promise me a dance, after all, Hilda said. Dmitri felt a twinge of guilt. You can't possibly mean, here. Well, it's better than you getting mobbed inside, Hilda replied. Sorry, but I kinda want you to myself, you know. Dmitri bit at his lip, before removing his coat. Here. At least wear this. Hilda laughed as he draped his coat over her shoulders. Gentlemanly as always, huh? Please, it's only to be expected. I would hate it if you were to get sick again. Thanks, Dmitri, Hilda said, before offering her hand to him. May I have this dance, good sir? He paused. Then. Of course. They danced under the moonlight, and Dmitri wondered how long they could make the moment last. Hey, Dmitri, you know, some boys invited me to make a vow with them later, Hilda said casually. The words were like a punch to the gut to Dmitri, and he had actually experienced Hilda's punches. And you? Rejected them? Accepted them? He wasn't brave enough to voice that question out loud. Turned them down, duh. Hilda said with a cute laugh. I don't want to make a promise with someone I'm not sure about, you know? Even if it's just a legend, it might really come true, so you have to be careful. So you really believe in the legend, Dmitri noted. Do you not? Hilda asked. Well, it's a silly, harmless little thing, so it doesn't hurt to try it, Dmitri said. But, I doubt that the goddess would fulfill any of our promises. That's so unromantic. Hilda huffed. What's the point in making a promise to someone if your heart's not in it? That isn't what I mean. Dmitri exclaimed hastily. If I were to make a promise, if I were to swear to you that we shall be together until the end of our days, then the one who'll make it come true is me. Not the goddess. Hilda's eyes widened. Her lips stretched out into a smile and he realized that he messed up. So, you might have a romantic bone in your body after all. Hilda exclaimed excitedly. That was like a marriage proposal. Dmitri, I'm proud of you. It was only an example. Don't look too much into it. Dmitri ordered, face red. Hilda laughed. Well, if you were serious about it, I wouldn't mind, Hilda stated. I want a life partner that's good-looking and good-hearted. I turned down all the other guys who asked me here since I didn't know if they were both, but if it's you. Hilda trailed off, suddenly averting her eyes. Do you want to make a vow with me? Hilda asked. Their feet came to a stop, though they kept holding each other. The dance was over. I'm sorry, Hilda. Hilda paused, before stepping away with a sad smile. Yeah, I thought you'd say that. She was about to apologize and leave, when... Wait. Yeah, Dmitri? Hilda asked, turning around with a smile. She mentally begging him not to say something so nice and sweet in him like how he was sorry when she just wanted to cry over her rejection. I wish I could make a vow with you, Dmitri said. I sincerely desire to be able to make you happy, to repay you for all the happiness you've given me, but... He couldn't look Hilda in the eye, instead lowering his head. It wouldn't be fair to you, to make such an irresponsible promise when I might not even have a future to give you. Hilda froze. Dmitri? What do you mean? Hilda asked, and Dmitri hated the sudden sound of fear in her voice. There are things I must accomplish, even at the risk of my own life, Dmitri told her. At the sound of Claude's voice in his ears, he added, I have a duty to those who died to bring them vengeance. Even if it might end in my death. No way. Hilda muttered breathlessly. He didn't have time to feel saddened by the thought of Hilda thinking him a monster, because just then, she stepped closer. Don't you care for your own life at all? You have a responsibility to stay alive, don't you? Hilda demanded, her eyes tearing up. Her mind flitted through reasons, her mouth scrambling to say them all in time. If you die, who would rule the kingdom? What about your friends? What about all the people who died who would want you to keep living? Hilda screamed. What about Didu? What about Ingrid and Sylvain and Felix, and the rest of your classmates, and Claude, and Edelgard Anne? And me? There are so many people who wouldn't want you to. Dmitri tried to speak, but Hilda just kept going. I don't care what reasons you have, what stupid excuses you came up with to push people away. I don't care if you're trying to protect people, trying to protect me from being hurt if you die. That's bullshit. If you don't want to hurt people, then stay alive. Hilda. Dmitri's expression was pained. A stray hiccup brought Hilda's tears spilling over and onto her cheeks. Once you die, that's it, she told him. There's no second chances, no way to undo it, nothing. She met his gaze with a terrible, terrible fear in her eyes. Dmitri's hand came up to wipe her tears. His voice immediately let out a quiet, I'm sorry, Hilda. Hilda's breathing was shaky as she begged him, please stay alive. If it's not for your people, or your friends, or anyone else, at least live for your own sake. Even if you think it's selfish, it's not. If you need someone to talk to, I'll be here, so please. Her voice broke down as she sobbed. Dmitri wanted to comfort her, but what right did he have to do any such thing when he made her cry in the first place? Plagued by doubt, he could only say, I couldn't possibly burden you like that. I've no right to burden anyone with. That was when Hilda grabbed him by the wrist and forced him to look her in the eye. I don't care. I want you to trust me. I won't let you suffer alone. Hilda declared. Even if it's not me, you've got so many people who support you. So, please. Her grip on his wrist was trembling. Your life is something worth protecting, Dmitri. Don't ever forget that. Dmitri felt the moment grow silent, knew that Hilda was waiting for him to do something. He knew that he ought to have done something to put her mind at ease, but instead, he asked her, how are you so kind to me? And her answer was, because I want you to be okay. Even if you think it's a burden, I want to be there for you. She smiled up at him, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. That's what friends are for, you know. At the sight of that same gentle smile, something in Dmitri broke down. Bitter, silent, tired tears left him. I'm sorry, Hilda. I thought that you'd be disgusted, or hate me. Hilda pulled him into a hug, promising him that she'd never hate him. Dmitri clung to her like she was a lifeline in a stormy sea. His breathing was unsteady. His grip was desperate, like the moment he loosened his grip, she might disappear too. It seemed like hours until Dmitri calmed down. Hilda had her ear against his chest, hearing his heartbeat gradually start slowing down. The first thing he said to her was, we should get inside. It's getting colder. Hilda just nodded, taking his hand in hers as they started heading towards the dormitories. The second thing he said was, thank you, Hilda. It's fine, Dmitri, Hilda told him, before saying, hey, I don't feel like going to sleep, leaving you alone, just yet. Do you want to? I don't know. Grab some tea and relax in my room. Dmitri paused. I mean, not in that kind of way. Hilda exclaimed quickly. I just, want to relax with you. Is that okay? Dmitri smiled. If you don't mind. I would enjoy that. On the strict condition that the door was to be unlocked, because he still had to be a proper gentleman, of course. I don't even know where to begin, Dmitri admitted as Hilda poured them both some tea. They were sitting side by side on her bed. This is more than I ever expected. That's okay. Take as long as you need to figure out how to say it. Dmitri started off slowly. It started with the brief facts of the entire matter. It was an assassination on the king that killed several others. Then, he got to his father's last words, and it was as if a dam was starting to break. He started describing how the people screamed. The fire. the heat, the blood, the pleas for mercy. He started talking about the ghosts, the nightmares, their cries for revenge. Saying it was easier than he expected. Maybe it was how Hilda kept holding his hand as he spoke, maybe it was the cozy atmosphere in her room, maybe it was the warm tea on his tongue. Either way, his chest wound up feeling lighter. Hilda didn't exactly know what to tell him. Eventually, she settled on leaning against his shoulder, her teacup in her hands, as she said, "Hey, Dmitri. In the Golden Deer classroom, all of us, we promised to meet here again in 5 years." Dmitri made a hum of acknowledgement, remembering how his classmates had said something similar. "Will you be there?" Hilda asked. "I think I will," Dmitri answered. "I'll look forward to seeing how different you'll look," Hilda said with a smile. "And I'm sure that you'll only grow more and more lovely," Dmitri said, lifting his teacup to his lips. Hilda stared at him in shock as Dmitri realized just what he had said. He started choking on his tea, coughing loudly. Hilda panicked and tried to help him. When? "Hilda! Are you okay?" Claude yelled, throwing Hilda's unlocked door open. Hilda turned her wide eyes from Dmitri to Claude and Edelgard behind him. And the two of them had really messy hair, and their clothes were in disarray. "Oh goddess," Hilda said, as Dmitri recovered fully. Chapter 39. "Heh, I never would have thought I could find a worthy match here. I yield," Geralt said, before leaning back in his chair and groaning. "Captain Geralt!" Eloise and Leonie screamed in a panic. Manuela giggled, winking with her champagne glass. "Is that all? I would have expected a man of your caliber to last longer." "Oh well, if there's anyone else who'd like to challenge me, I'll accept wholeheartedly." Catherine stepped forward, only to be pulled back by Shamir. Professor Byleth just fucking left, and Professor Hanneman was trying to see if their crests had anything to do with their drinking ability, so there was no one to stop her but Seath. "Manuela, please," Seath screamed, almost begging her to stop. "This is not the proper conduct of faculty here." "I would like to challenge you next, Professor," Flane exclaimed. "No." In that kind of induced chaos, no one noticed Edelgard and Claude slipping away into the night. Two boys were standing outside the reception hall, the taller one having followed the shorter one after the latter stormed out in a huff. "Look, Casper," Sylvain said, wincing as the shorter boy glared, "I've never been looking down on you in any way but literally." Casper's glare deepened. "Shit, I'm really digging myself deeper, huh? Sorry. I was interested in trying to be your friend, since you don't seem to be the type to judge people by their crests. I just suck at talking to people I'm not flirting with." "Huh. I get it if you don't want anything to do with me anymore, but I really am sincere about this." And then Sylvain almost got hit by a dragon. It was only Casper tackling him to the ground that kept him from being struck by the ascending wyvern. "What the hell?" Casper demanded, watching as the figure on the wyvern got higher and higher. In the dim light, he couldn't make out who it was. "Who's going around riding wyverns this late?" "Sorry," a voice called out from above. "Wasn't that Claude's voice?" Sylvain asked. "Ha, I didn't think you were the type for this sort of stunt, princess," Claude exclaimed, exhilarated from the wind in his face and the feeling of Edelgard's arms around his body as they flew. He was alright with Edelgard wearing pants to the ball, but his eyebrows did raise at the sight of her thick coat. Now he knew that she meant for something like this all along. "Keep your voice down," Edelgard ordered. "I wanted us to fly to ensure no one could overhear what we speak of tonight. What a world we live in. Are all serious discussions held atop the backs of wyverns in the Empire?" Claude asked. "Claude. Kidding, kidding. But still, please ensure that all eyes, ears, and limbs remain firmly on the wyvern, or else we might be in for some nasty surprises next time we check a mirror." Edelgard rolled her eyes, before deciding to just say it outright. "And here I thought I had found someone I could share my dreams of a world without divisions with. Mostly outright. Oh? Intriguing. Do tell me more, princess." Edelgard let out a slow sigh before speaking. Claude felt her tighten her grip on him as he brought them higher into the starry sky. She told him what she knew about the church. Edelgard couldn't help but slip a little contempt into her tone as she did so. When she started to explain her relationship with the people who had attacked him. "I hate them," Edelgard confessed. "I will do everything in my power to destroy them the moment I no longer need them." "But you still need them," Claude noted. "I do. And I'll continue to need them, as long as I have no other allies." There was a stretch of silence in their conversation, the only sounds they heard being the rushing wind and the flapping of wings. "Is there really no other way but war?" Claude asked. "You won't sway me away from my chosen path," Edelgard stated. "The reason I'm telling you this is so you can either join me or flee." It was Claude's turn to sigh. "You know, there's almost no way you'll be able to do this without facing the kingdom," he said solemnly. "I know. And telling me this, I could inform any number of people and get you arrested for conspiracy, you know. You won't." "Huh?" Claude was taken aback by the sudden declaration. Edelgard's voice was certain as she said, "You're the same as me. You want to tear down every system that divides people, every false ideal, every bit of propaganda, every drop of hatred. You can't possibly get rid of a potential ally like this." Then she took a deep breath, and said, "But, if you really wish to stop me, I'd prefer an arrow to the heart over captivity in the church." "Hey now, I wasn't serious," Claude exclaimed hurriedly. Edelgard let out a breath that might have been called a laugh, in a less serious moment. "I know." Another pause. "Edelgard, is there really no way I can convince you otherwise? No one else who could get you to think that, maybe, just maybe, this isn't the best way?" Edelgard bit at her lip, before saying, "There isn't any other way. I know the truth, and I can't let Fodlan be deceived any longer." And then, "Right, of course. Don't know why I even asked," Claude said, almost a bit resigned to his fate. "I'll join you, so." Edelgard's eyes widened at the sound of a question he had asked her before. "I don't know about you, but I don't think most people go ride dragons on the day of the school ball. Otherwise, the skies would be a lot more crowded," Claude said as they prepared to descend. "Do you have any excuses, or should we just go along with my idea?" "What's your idea?" Edelgard asked. "Well, it's the kind of thing that people wouldn't question, but..." Claude paused. Edelgard could feel his heart starting to get a bit faster. "You'd have to kiss me. You okay with that?" Edelgard was completely stunned as he directed his wyvern towards the stables. They managed to land safely. "Ah, forget it, we'll just figure out another way," Claude said as he hopped off his dragon, before moving to help Edelgard down. While she stepped down, Edelgard grabbed Claude by the collar. Before he could react, the moment Edelgard's feet touched the ground, she yanked him down to meet her lips. The moment she pulled away, Claude went right back to meet her again. Claude's wyvern went back to his stall on his own, since Claude was clearly too preoccupied to do it. That was the entire explanation for why the two of them were so disheveled by the time they made it back to the dorms in Hilda's room. Wind, air pressure, and kissing. What have you two done?" Hilda asked, horrified. Her assumptions were, not entirely on the mark, but they weren't exactly off the mark either. "Princess over here wanted to go on a little joyride, and there was no way I could refuse her," Claude answered. "Claude," Edelgard said. Very, very private stuff. I'm afraid I can't share more, the memories are too dear to my heart," Claude continued on. "Claude," Edelgard said again. "Please just close the door," Hilda told them. All right, we'll leave you to your own mishaps," Claude exclaimed, shutting the door and dragging Edelgard away. "Claude!" Dimitri screamed, just as the door closed. Hilda groaned. "You two better not keep me up tonight." Hilda screamed at the wall she shared with Edelgard. "If you do, I'm vandalizing your faces with paint." Her only answer was vague laughter. Hilda fumed at the wall, before Dimitri stood. "I ought to leave as well," Dimitri stated. "I've already committed a grave breach of etiquette tonight." "It's fine," Hilda exclaimed hurriedly. "You can always come to me, okay?" Dimitri smiled at her. "I will keep that in mind. If you'll allow it, I'll attempt to be more open." Of course I allow it. I wouldn't offer it if I didn't want to. Thank you, Hilda. Dmitri offered his hand to Hilda, and without a second thought, she placed her hand on his. I cannot express my gratitude enough, Dmitri said, before raising her hand to his lips. The two of them were pink as Dmitri let go. Good night. I hope you rest well, Dmitri told her. Why you too? Hilda replied as he went for the door. Dmitri gave her one last smile before shutting the door behind him. Hilda held her hand to her chest, a huge grin coming on her face. That kind of sweet gesture, it was fine if it gave her a bit of hope, right? Chapter 40. Now, Claude was all for equality, but war? No thank you. His reasoning for joining Edelgard was that, hey, she liked him well enough, if she saw him as an ally, maybe he could nudge her onto a different path. It'd sure be easier than meeting her as enemies and trying to work with her then. If it didn't work out, he could always stab her in the back. He definitely didn't want to, though. He liked his original plan way better. I just need to get on her good side as much as possible before she carries out her first attack. That's easy, right? Claude thought as he walked on the path to the reception hall alongside Edelgard. It was hard to think that the girl next to him was capable of such a thing. Just then, Marianne and Ingrid were walking together in the opposite direction, before Marianne's foot caught on a part of the path that was a bit uneven. She started to fall, only to be caught by the blonde beside her. A fake mouse flew out of Marianne's pocket, landing by Edelgard's feet. Edelgard shrieked, practically jumping out of her skin. She clung to Claude with a terrible fear in her eyes. Wait, Edelgard, that's a cat toy. Claude exclaimed hurriedly. Edelgard froze, before turning bright red. Ahem. I apologize. Carry on as if that never happened. Kinda hard when you're still grabbing onto my arm. Edelgard let go in a hurry, scrambling to return the toy to Marianne. She pinched the toy mouse's tail with her fingers, like she was reluctant to touch even a toy. How is she planning a war again? Claude wondered to himself, before getting a strange idea. The information she's so sure about, where did she get it? Is she being manipulated into this? He was deeply pensive as Edelgard returned to his side. It's a good thing I read up on crests and the church before. I think I've got enough of a base to work with from now on. Achoo! Hilda's sneeze interrupted a story she was telling Dmitri about what happened at the ball. They both stopped walking. Are you all right? Dmitri asked. It's getting colder, so take my cloak. Hey, you might get sick again. You already handed me your coat last night, there's no way I can just take it. Hilda exclaimed. Then, should we rest inside? They were passing by the dormitories on the way to the marketplace to browse for a birthday gift for Ingrid, but this meant that they were taking the route that wouldn't let them take a break inside a building unless they took a detour. I have a better idea. Hilda exclaimed. Dmitri paused to hear it, only for Hilda to hug his arm and wrap the cloak over her shoulders. There we go. Now we can both be warm. Hilda declared proudly, showing Dmitri a bright smile. Dmitri flushed red for reasons that had nothing to do with any sort of cold. Hilda froze, before asking, are you fine with this? I don't want to make you uncomfortable or anything. Tell me if you want me to back off, okay? It's not that, it's not unpleasant, on the contrary, really, Dmitri answered, looking away. No, seriously. Don't force yourself to be okay with it if you don't want to. Hilda, I'm all right. Dmitri exclaimed, though his hand went up to touch his blushing cheeks. I'm just flustered. Excessively so, even. It was then that Hilda realized, oh, well, all right then, Hilda said, her story about Seath caring for Professor Manuela in her hungover state long forgotten. They passed by the last room of the dormitories in silence. The greenhouse was right before them when Dmitri worked up the nerve to ask. Hilda, what's something you enjoy? He kinda wanted to kick himself for being so awkward about it. Oh, I like making accessories and fashion, Hilda answered easily as they turned and went by the fishing pond. I also like dancing, but not too much, or I'll get tired. And hanging out with friends is always fun. She looked up at him with a grin, asking, "What about you, Dmitri?" Dmitri hesitated. "I enjoy training and caring for my weapons," Dmitri answered. "What do you do to relax?" Dmitri had no idea how to answer that. Hilda gave him a blank expression, but before he could apologize for being such a dull person, she said, "Geez, Dmitri, if you don't learn to relax, you might end up dying of stress. I get that you're trying to be the perfect prince and all, but you still gotta think of yourself." "I'm not under much stress, really," Dmitri confessed. "Perhaps it might seem that I'm downplaying my difficulties, but I assure you, that's not the case." "Really?" Hilda asked. Dmitri smiled as he told her that he really meant it. "Every moment I'm with you, I enjoy myself," Dmitri told her. "I don't know where I would be if I never met you." "Oh." Hilda blushed. She ducked her head, almost like she was trying to hide her face. Dmitri realized what he had said, and, before he could stop himself, he asked her, "Do you feel the same? I can't imagine that I'm that sociable a person." "What are you talking about, Dmitri?" "I like spending time with you," Hilda answered easily. Then, with a bit of shyness in her tone, she added, "I like you, Dmitri." Dmitri froze. They came to a stop in the passageway between the entrance and the fishing pond. There weren't many people around, and the wall served to further hide them from sight. "I mean, you don't have to care or anything. We can still be friends if that's what you want, but I just wanted to tell you that I like you, and that the only thing stopping me from kissing you on the lips is the fact that you might not want to." "Well, it's not that I would strictly be opposed to the notion," Dmitri said. "In fact, I've had untoward feelings for you for quite some time now, but, Hilda, are you sure?" "Sure about what, you?" "Yes. I'm rather inexperienced with these sorts of social endeavors, and I'm rather dull, and wouldn't you be happier with someone else?" Hilda's expression was blank. Getting on her tiptoes, grabbing fistfuls of Dmitri's shirt to yank him down, Hilda answered him with a kiss. Check the description for the links to the author.